onto our recent games, and Greg is going to get us kicked off with a kind of retro game, which is not retro.
It's not retro, but it is very reminiscent of stuff like Super Probotector in particular, which is also Contra. Blazing Chrome, which I picked up, I think it was towards the tail end of last year actually. It was on sale, maybe about half price on it. It was certainly below a tenner anyway. And I picked it up because it did remind me quite a lot of, like I say, Super Probotector. And it plays quite a bit like it as well. So it's obviously like Contra, it's a run and gun game, and you got a choice of two characters, and I can't remember their names, but like one's a female and the other one's I think sort of a more like a cyborg or robotic kind of character, but I don't know their names off the top of my head because I played as a girl anyway. And you basically you start off, there's 4 levels available at the start, so you can choose one of the 4 levels at any time you want, and it kind of shows you a wee like difficulty rating on them between like 1 and 5. So they're all kind of split up, like one of the levels is like 1 difficulty, one has like 2 difficulties. So your best place to kind of start is probably the one that it drops you in at the easiest, so the lowest difficulty, which is what I did. And I kind of just went through them that way, 1 to 4. And the first level is very much thematically is quite like the first level of Super Probotector on the Super Nintendo. The Alien Wars is just that sort of kind of torn down city sort of vibe, and like the lava kind of the fiery sort of stuff. It's all kind of there, and yeah, like it shooting and all with your standard gun, it feels fine. Like the bosses come in just as you would expect. They come into the screen and there'll be different types of enemies. You know, some that all maybe be like standing in a place and like shooting at you occasionally, and you have to obviously dodge the bullets. It's your standard fare of like 1-hit kills. So you'll have that, or you'll have other enemies that maybe would sort of like hop around the screen a bit, and maybe you have to dodge them instead of dodging the bullets or whatever. And then you have other ones that maybe come in, fly in and grab you, but they don't kill you initially. They just sort of carry you up the screen, and you kind of have to like fire up and kill them before they take you into danger or whatever. So there's a bit of variety type, and there's also variety in the weapons that you can get as well. Obviously, we know from like Contra and stuff, you have like the spreader and like homing missiles and stuff. They're a wee bit different here. Obviously in Contra, you could store like 2 different weapons that you could switch between at the switch of a button. In this here, you can actually have 4 weapons at one time. There's your standard like shot, sort of like rapid fire sort of shooting, you know, you just pretty much hold the button in the whole time and jump around and do your thing, and then you have like a grenade launcher thing, which is obviously a bit more powerful, and a sort of a laser thing as well, which you can kind of direct in certain ways after you like power up and fire it. And there's one more as well, which is, it's like a, I'm not sure how you would describe it. It's like, you know, like the whip in Super Castlevania 4, where you can kind of like, you can like whip out, and then as you move the direction, it kind of moves it around in all the 360 directions. So you've got a shot like that there as well. Like these sort of pink sort of like balls that go out sort of in a line. They only reach kind of a certain distance across the screen. So you've got all those options, and to be honest, I found myself sticking to the original, just the basic gun, because like once you die, if you're using any of those weapons, just like Contra, you lose that item, but obviously you can pick it up again as power-ups through the level. But I found myself just sticking to the standard weapon because I kind of got used to it, and like there's different ways of using the different items, and I didn't feel like I was comfortable enough with any of them. I kept feeling like I was dying trying to use something else. And it's like, I'm more comfortable with this standard rapid fire weapon, so I just kind of stuck with it, and it served me well. But like each level is kind of split into like I think it's generally like 3 sort of sections, and each section is kind of like a checkpoint. So there's different difficulty levels, like easy, medium, and then there's a harder level that you unlock by beating it on normal or whatever the difficulty is. I played it on easy actually, which was actually tricky enough, and you start with like seven lives. And so each section of the level, like if you die in that section, you're transported back to the start of that section. You have infinite continues as far as I can tell, certainly in easy mode anyway. So you basically have your 7 lives to like beat a section before moving on to the next one, and then you'll start the next section with however many lives you had left from the previous one. So if you kind of start a section and you've only got like 1 life left, you can try, but it's probably going to be quite difficult to make it to the end without having to restart that section again. None of the levels are particularly long as such. I think the longest one maybe took about 20 to 25 minutes, and that was obviously like with dying a few times and going back and repeating. So it's not a particularly long game. There are 2 levels that you unlock after you beat the original 4. One of which is a snow level, which I always enjoy seeing. Like I
saw your tweet.
Yeah, like I've done the first 4 levels, and like I was enjoying it to a point. I don't think it's as tight as something like Pro Protector. Like the enemies were a bit more frustrating at times. I always felt like when I was playing Super Pro Protector, the Alien Wars, that anytime I died, it was generally my fault. And it probably is the case with this as well, but it seemed easier to make mistakes in this one. Like the enemies were sometimes hard to get away from, and like if an enemy is close by, you can like press the attack button and like you'll like slash them away or whatever. I didn't always feel like that worked for me. Like I would slash at the enemy, but I still find myself dying, so I sometimes wasn't sure what had happened. So that was always frustrating, especially when you're maybe on your last life or something, and you're just about to make it through a level, and then frustration at the end. And there are like mini bosses and stuff throughout each level as well, and obviously a big boss to end each level. And some of the bosses are actually pretty decent, pretty enjoyable. Particularly the last one, which I'll not really spoil. It's not really that much of a deal if it's spoiled, I don't think, but it's one that a boss fight that I thought was pretty good actually, and it kind of. It has different sections, and it has obviously its different attack patterns, and once you sort of get used to how it works, like there's no real problems there. Like if you make a mistake, then it is your fault. But like there are occasions where it sort of like works you into like a 3D sort of space. So instead of just going like left to right, you're going sort of in towards the screen and stuff. There are a couple of times in the game it does that as well. So yeah, it's not always just going left to right and shooting things. Even in the left to right stages, there's a bit of variety as well, because sometimes you're not just on foot, you're maybe in a hover bike. There's a level a wee bit like I suppose I've never played it, but the Battletoads level, which is kind of infamous for being extremely difficult. It's not as difficult here, but you have to like go along and like jump over obstacles and like gaps and stuff. While you're shooting, that's pretty fun, I would say. And then there is another level where you are, like I say, going through the screen sort of in a more like a Starwing sort of perspective, although maybe wasn't quite so keen on those levels actually. But it is good that there is that wee bit of variety in it. Yeah, so there's power-ups as well. You'll sometimes get these like boxes that appear. Sometimes after you die, they'll drop right at the start of the level, and they'll sort of like flick between different things, so you can kind of choose which upgrade you want. Well, there's one for like that boosts your attack. There'll be something a companion that'll shoot as you shoot as well. There's a defensive one which I kind of always went for, because it gave you like 2 things that kind of like went round your character, and it basically just gives you like 2 extra hits, so it's effectively 2 more lives. And then there's another one which speeds you up as well, which I didn't really see much need of really, other than maybe like there's occasions where there's like enemies like that you maybe are trying to get away from, so you can turn around and get a shot at them. It would only really be effective then, but it didn't seem that useful really throughout the majority of the game. And the other thing that the boxes would give would obviously be the different weapons that I told you about. There's like obviously the whip type thing and the grenade launcher and stuff. But I always went with the defensive one because obviously 2 extra lives was always handy.
Yeah, in those type of games, yeah.
The music as well is pretty good. Like it just has that obviously that sort of 90s kind of retro vibe to it, and it looks like a 90s game, it sounds like a 90s game, and it pretty much plays like a 90s game as well. And
how does it run? What I saw from your like that level you were just about to say, the snow level on the kind of on the vehicle you were on, it looked very smooth.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there was any issues in that regard. Nothing really springs to mind. Like as far as I know, it's pretty much smooth the entire way. It didn't matter what was happening on the screen really.
One of the reasons I've been playing a lot of kind of Contra games recently. Even Toki is more of a Contra game than I can remember. I've been enjoying that. I'll talk about that next week. But I also played Metal Slug with my son today, and wow, that's got some lag, slow down, and it throws a lot at you. But the slowdown in that game is unbelievable. None of that at present in Blazing Chrome, no?
No, not that I'm aware of. I'm not sure what it's like. I think it's 2-player. I never obviously get the chance to try that out, but I assume it's 2-player as well. And to be honest, it's probably one that you would enjoy, but at the same time, I'm not sure what price it is on the eShop at the minute, but when you've got the Contra collection regularly on sale for like $7.99 or whatever it is, it's tricky to just say here's one game which is maybe even not quite as good as probably the best one on the Contra collection, but it is probably worth playing. It's a solid like 7 out of 10. I would say I certainly enjoyed it, but I wouldn't be like dying to go back and play it again or anything. Maybe in co-op it would be good crack, but yeah, not too bad at all.
It's on my wish list, so if it comes at the right price, I think I will pick it up. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button and give us a like if you've enjoyed our content. You can also check out our other great content on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and the N-E Café podcast from all good podcast providers. Just follow the links in the description below.